In 1950, the AIDS virus was fed to nearly 300,000 black youth in Africa in the form of an oral polio vaccine by Dr. Hilary Kaprowski, who is currently the director of biovirology at Thomas Jefferson University in Philadelphia. Today, a child dies every minute of HIV/AIDS in sub-Saharan Africa. In the U.S., African Americans represent 49% of all new AIDS cases. The globe holders, the population controllers, the AIDS makers, dark nation depopulators, the Contra trainers, American Nazi bankers, the tower bombers, right-wing Al-Qaeda sponsors, Hitler's accomplice, 9/11 mission accomplished. Free your conscience. In ghettos they kill the prophets, the juggernauts, the alphabet cops, the CIA, FBI, the coca crops, imported to local blocks. The 5 years for the black to the month that the cracker got. A powder pot compared to a gram of rock. Got blacks at 50% of the prison pop. The whacking huts, the correction corporations.
They told me time and time again to watch myself, be cautious of my words, careful with my steps, because one step over the lines drawn could possibly be the end of me. So that's how I lived, afraid of the toes I'd step upon if I ever once decided that maybe this time I would not compromise. I lived like this, teeth sinking deep into my tongue for fear of speaking words that could in turn hurt those hurting me. And what kind of life did I live? With a voice able to soar, quietly slipping into almost nothing. The nothing I was destined for, with these 4 lines drawn around me. So I wielded the end of the pencil with an eraser clean, untouched, and one day began, without regard for law, smearing all those artificial borders, lines that I saw. I broke their connection at every sharp corner, kicking the dirt to rid of the lines and their imprint in my mind. In the light of the spineless, powerless being, I buried beneath ash to surface a voice of the downtrodden class. Emerged from the trenches, my first words few, to break down the lines surrounding you. To now see you cross freely, unbound by any means, any sounds of the unheard cry. Spears spew from thy lips, which were once sealed with fear, tearing at the weak flesh of the lines comprised of our bones over years, piles and piles. No more barriers. We yell as we break, each line intersecting parallels in our wake. No more lines drawn in the time of our dawn. Our lives are our own. The final strike, the final blow. We keep the fight steady still, knowing the time of the line is ending soon. As we take the last breath, the first of many free, recollecting every line in our memory, we stop, we think. The existence of our lives on the line, we'd rather know than the lives we lived to be controlled by them. Uhuru.
Uhuru. No more barriers. Can we get another round of applause for Akile? What an excellent way to open up. Now, if we can stand, we're going to recite the African pledge. I pledge allegiance to my African people. I pledge to develop my mind and body to the greatest extent possible, I will learn all that I can in order to give my best to my people in our struggle for liberation through revolution. I will keep myself physically fit, building a strong body free from drugs and other substances which weaken me and make me less capable of defending myself, my family, and my African brothers and sisters. I will unselfishly share my knowledge and understanding with others in order to bring about change more quickly. I will discipline myself to direct my energies thoughtfully and constructively rather than wasting time in idle hatred. I will train myself never to hurt or allow others to harm my African brothers and sisters, for I recognize that we need every African man, woman, and child to be physically, mentally, and psychologically strong. These principles I pledge to practice daily and to teach them to others in order to unite my people in the struggle for freedom and independence. Uhuru. Uhuru. First, I want to welcome all those in attendance, as well as all of you watching all over the world online. Burning Spirit Media presents Black August, celebrating African resistance from Haiti to Ferguson to Milwaukee. This event is intended to build support for WBPU, Black Power 96.3 FM radio, both financially as well as gaining volunteers to help us build and operate Black Power 96 to its fullest capacity. Black Power 96 Radio is a project of the African People's Education and Defense Fund, whose mission is to defend the human and civil rights of the African community and to address the grave disparities in education, health, and economic development. No other radio station is tied to a mission statement like that. We want you to get involved and build your Black community radio station. We need you to be engineers, fundraisers, DJs, and all who can contribute your time and creativity to make this the best radio station on the planet. We want your donations, your time, your genius, your music, your sweat, and your Black power. This Black August, let's continue the resistance and build on our own Black community-controlled media. Black August originated in the concentration camps of California to honor fallen freedom fighters, Jonathan Jackson, George Jackson, William Christmas, James McLean, and Katari Gaulden. Jonathan Jackson was gunned down outside the Marin County, California courthouse on August 7th, 1970, as he attempted to liberate 3 imprisoned Black liberation fighters, James McLean, William Christmas, and Rachel McGee. Since that time, Black August has been a celebration of African resistance. Throughout this event, we will build on this theme of African resistance and emphasize the importance of Black community-controlled media. Understanding that having our own voice is a critical form of resistance and part of the struggle to win self-determination. From the moment that the first Europeans set foot on Africa and began to violently prey on us, Africans have fiercely resisted. August has a special significance in its ongoing struggle for freedom and independence. August 22nd, 1791, Africans in Haiti rise up in revolution. August 30th, 1800, Gabriel Process of Slave Rebellion occurred. August 27th, 1887, Marcus Garvey's birthday. Marcus Garvey built a single international African organization with an economy, a government, and a mission to retake Africa for Africans at home and abroad. August 21st, 1831, Nat Turner Slave Rebellion commenced. The Underground Railroad was started on August 2nd, 1850. August 13th, 1920, 20,000 Africans at Garvey's UNIA's convention in Madison Square Garden adopted the red, black, and the green liberation flags. The March on Washington occurred in August of 1963. The Wasp Rebellions were in August of 1965. August 7th, 1970, Jonathan Jackson leads the courthouse rebellion in Marine County. 1 year later, and 45 years from today, August 21st, Black Panther George Jackson is assassinated by prison guards. The African community in Ferguson, Missouri, sparked today's nationwide rebellion against colonial police in a protest of the murder of Michael Brown, August 9, 2014. And this August, the 13th, in Milwaukee, African people rose up against the police murder of another African, Seville Smith. Now we're going to play a few examples of this heroic resistance that African people have been showing throughout the years.
None of their kids serving the infantry. The odds are stacked against us like a casino. Think about it, most of the army is black and Latino. And if you can't acknowledge the reality of my words, you're just another stupid motherfucker out on the curb trying to escape from the ghetto with your ignorant ways. But you can't read history at an illiterate stage, and you can't raise a family on minimum wage. Why the fuck you think most of us are locked in a cage? I give niggas the truth because they pride is indigent.
They burn the mechanisms of their production. They're burning the plantation fields, burning down the houses.
In the era of apocalypse, waiting my turn. I'm a hard.
We acknowledge Gabriel Prosser, a literate enslaved blacksmith who planned a large slave revolt in the Richmond area of Virginia in the summer of 1800. With the help of other slaves, he devised a plan to seize control of Richmond by killing all of the whites and then establish
the only place where the Haitian Revolution is probably the most profound revolution ever realized by human beings. The only place where slaves created a nation. They fought the French, the British, and the Spanish army for 12 years.
They burn the mechanisms of their production. They're burning the plantation fields, burning down the houses.
We acknowledge Gabriel Prosser, a literate enslaved blacksmith who planned a large slave revolt in the Richmond area of Virginia in the summer of 1800. With the help of other slaves, he devised a plan to seize control of Richmond by killing all of the whites and then establishing a kingdom of Virginia with himself as monarch. Prosser planned to initiate the revolt on the night of August 30th, 1800. However, earlier in the day, two slaves who wanted to protect their masters betrayed the plot to Virginia authorities. Realizing their plan was discovered, Prosser and many of his followers dispersed into the countryside. About 35 leaders were captured and executed, but Prosser escaped to Norfolk, where he was betrayed by fellow slaves who claimed a reward for his capture.
On August 1st, 1920, thousands of UNIA delegates from 25 countries assembled at Liberty Hall and Madison Square Garden. Garvey called it the International Convention of the Negro Peoples of the World. He hoped to move a step closer to his dream of a black nation in Africa.
We have met in this historic building tonight for the purpose of enlightening the world respecting the attitude of the new Negro. We believe that the Negro should have a place in the sun. If you believe that Africa should be one vast empire controlled by the Negro, then arise and sing the national anthem of the Universal Negro Improvement Association.
The month-long convention combined substance with overblown symbolism. Garvey installed officials with outlandish titles like Supreme Potentate, Leader of the American Negroes, and Lady Commander of the Supreme Order of the Nile. But behind closed doors, convention delegates produced a groundbreaking document.
They developed a program which was based on assessment of what was a black experience in up to 1920, and how do we go forward. which led to the development of the Declaration of Rights of the Negro Peoples of the World. They were thinking there needed to be a Black Declaration of Rights.
This was an important document that called upon the nations of Europe and America to respect the rights of Black people throughout the world.
I am accused of creating dukes, barons, and knights, he said. But who gave the white man a monopoly on creating social order? Garvey's government in exile conducted its own foreign policy, appointing ambassadors and sending a telegram of support to the Irish Republican Army.
My apartment, bro. He ain't armed. He don't got no gun. They just killed this nigga.
I don't want to hear any criticism of these young Africans. It is because these young people stood up and they fought. They fought back like you're supposed to fight. When you are occupied, when your community is occupied, and they're shooting you down in the streets, you are supposed to fight.
Yeah, we'll follow you, sir.
We're gonna walk with this family because we don't need any more parents burying their children. We don't need any more parents burying their children. The fact is that they treat African people like we're an occupied colonial community. They do the same thing to Black people in this country that they're doing to people in Palestine, they're doing to people in Afghanistan, they're doing to people in Iraq. They're doing it for the same reason, because we are colonized people. We are occupied people, and we're going to have to push the occupation out.
What's going on right now?
Right now, you got a city riot going on because, once again, the police has failed to protect us like they say they was going to do. They failed to be here for the people like they say they sworn in to do. You know, and us as a community, we're not going to protect ourselves. But if we don't have anyone to protect us, then this is what you get. You know, you get riots. You got people out here going crazy. We losing loved ones every day to the people that sworn in to protect us. It's other stuff that's going on out here, and you wonder why it's ISIS in America.
Sedan, certainly people upset here tonight, but we've got, innocent business owners who are now going up in flames. What's it going to take for you guys to be okay tonight and to stop this chaos?
It ain't me. It's not me. I'm going to let y'all know that now. It's not us guys neither. And I'm glad that y'all said that. It's not us. It's the police. This the madness that they spark up. This is what they encourage. This is what they provoke. This is what you get out of you taking a loved one from someone. This is what you get. You get a lot of people that's hurt, and they can't vent the right way. They can't no longer depend on the police to be here to protect us like they say they're going to do. So this is what you get. And no, it's not going to end today. I can't tell you it's going to end tomorrow. I don't know when it's going to end. But it's for y'all to start. We're not the ones that's killing us. Y'all killing us. We can't make a change if y'all don't change.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate you.
Helmets on, me. Helmets on, hurry up. Do not move. They cannot take us to jail. They cannot take us all down. They do not have the manpower out here. They cannot take us all. If they take one of us, they gotta take everybody. They gotta take everybody. They can't do it. They can't do it. So come on. Come on. Shield down. Do not move. Do not run. Do not run. I'm uppercutting shit. It's time for more niggas to die for shit that matter. Fuck all this beefing and shit. Die for something that matters. They just killed a black man. What the fuck y'all gonna do?
Right now, I'm going to introduce our keynote speaker. Amali Yeshitela, chairman of the African Socialist International and the African People's Socialist Party. From the day he tore down the racist mural from City Hall in St. Petersburg, Florida in 1966, Chairman Amali Yeshitela has never stopped fighting for the liberation of African people everywhere. In the heat of revolutionary struggle and during the years in prison for his political work, Chairman Amali developed the theory of African internationalism that understands the world through the eyes of the African working class. In 1968, Chairman Amali Yeshitela founded the Burning Spear newspaper, which is still published today. The chairman has authored numerous articles, pamphlets, and books. He has led countless campaigns in the name of the African working class, including the Community Control of Housing Initiative that won 22,000 votes in Oakland, California in 1984, and the campaign that freed Desi Woods, an African woman in prison for killing a white attempted racist with his own gun. In 1996, the chairman mobilized a community fight back following a rebellion sparked by the police murder of 17-year-old Tyron Lewis in St. Petersburg. Chairman Amali made reparations a household word with the International Tribunal on Reparations for African People, which was held in Brooklyn, New York in 1982. Finding that African people were owed $4.1 trillion for stolen labor in the US alone. The chairman founded the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement in 1991 as a revolutionary mass organization to defend the democratic rights of the African working class. In 2012, under the leadership of the party, Black Star Industries was launched, bringing all of the economic development institutions of the party under one umbrella. Today, Chairman Amali Yeshitela, as a leader of the African Socialist International, speaks to his growing base around the world and leads the worldwide movement for liberation of African and African people everywhere. Now I'd like to bring up Chairman Amali Yeshitela.
Thank you very much, Desun, for that introduction, and I want to express my appreciation to all of you for coming out on today. This is really an incredible event, momentous occasion to talk about the launching of Black Power 96, our own radio station, and it's really important because it's not a radio station that's owned by any individual. It's not my radio station, it's not Desun's radio station, it's a community station. And we fought to get this station. We're still engaged in struggle to get this station. We've got the license for the station now, and there's still a lot of work that we have to do within the next several weeks so that we can actually flip the switch. Hopefully you'll get an opportunity before you leave here today to see the place where we are going to set up the radio station right here at the Uhuru House. And this is an appropriate place to establish it, right here, smack dab in the middle of our community. And when I say our community, I'm talking about the community of the working, oppressed people. I'm talking about the community where we see police occupation on a regular basis up and down our avenues throughout the general area that we live in. The community where at one time they had indicated that 71% of the people here live at or below the poverty line. And So it's appropriate that we should do this and give our community an opportunity to speak for ourselves. We have a situation where all kinds of forces claim to be speaking for our community, but they have no relationship to the community at all, except anytime something goes down, the white man calls them up and get them to condemn the rest of us. Anybody who just saw the clip with that young brother in Milwaukee could see the pain that he was experiencing. And I felt it sitting there. And he needs a voice, and he doesn't need to have only an opportunity to say anything, to say that he exists, that he represents a viable community when the police come in and guns down his brother. He needs a voice, and all of the people in our communities need a voice, and we're the ones who they have quieted over the years. We're talking about this very building. Somebody mentioned that in 1996, this very building where we are seated now, in order to keep us from talking, because the police had murdered an 18-year-old African young man right down the street, 3 blocks away, had gunned him down while he was sitting in his car, and was able to tell the most insane kind of lie to justify that murder, just like they told a lie about the brother they killed in Milwaukee, just like they told a lie about how they killed Mike Brown in Ferguson, just like they tell lies about every one of us that they're gunning down. They told this lie, and they murdered this young man. And then after they murdered him, the people rose up because people have learned over a long history that you can't get justice from white power. White power will not give you justice. There's no justice in the courtroom. There's no justice with the police. And so people had come to that conclusion, and they rose up, the community rose up and fought them in the streets of this country, having a righteous rebellion, a rebellion that targeted police cars, that destroyed 2 police precincts in this community, that burned to the ground liquor stores owned by white people, a furniture store that was right down the street that made its fortune off our people over several decades. The people rose up. And then when the people rose up, of course, what you saw was them sending the police in and using every force at their command to suppress this community. Then, because the people rose up, it made it necessary for them to pretend that they were going to investigate the murder of 18-year-old Tyrone Lewis. He was murdered by Sandra Minor and James, what was the other guy's name? James Knight. He was murdered right down the street from here. People saw it. More than 40 witnesses went before a grand jury and said they saw the murder, but it didn't make any difference. And we knew he was murdered because the people came to this community after the murder, and because we had a trial of the mayor and the cops who killed him right here in this building after the murder. And then because we had called on the community to come out to a meeting such as this meeting on a Wednesday on November 13th, so that we could discuss the fact that we knew the grand jury was not going to indict the police who murdered this young man. They began arresting people on that Wednesday, on that day, before the meeting. They began arresting members of our movement because they didn't want us to say anything to the community. They had a problem what we might say to the community. And at the moment I arrived to this building, we saw that the police were all out in the streets here, riding up and down, 4 in a car with their guns sticking out of the window, trying to intimidate this community on the one hand, and then on the other hand, trying to spark some kind of incident that would justify them attacking this community. And what they did was told people they couldn't come to the meeting. And people had to go in the alleys and around side streets to get here because the police had blocked the streets on both sides of this building to try and keep people from coming. They pepper sprayed people to try to make sure, if they could, that people wouldn't come to this meeting. They didn't want us to be able to talk. They don't want ordinary black people to be able to talk for ourselves. They want mealy-mouthed, lick-spilled, boot-licking other forces to talk for us. That's what they want. And so once this meeting started, or before the meeting started, I'm in the place because some people had got here, and women and children were in this building, in this very same room. And somebody came up to me while I'm trying to get the people to chill because the police are still riding up and down, and there are perhaps a few hundred people standing on the outside. Somebody comes into me and says, look, Chairman, the police have said over the loudspeaker that we have 5 minutes to get out of the building. They've declared a meeting in our own building. This is our building. They don't own this building. This is our building. They say they have declared this meeting in our building an illegal assembly, and we have 5 minutes to get out of it. Setting the trees afire in an attempt to set the vans that were parked behind the building afire. And they were used the tear gas canisters and shoot it into the trees, and young people would come and snatch the branches, the burning branches from the trees, and try to drag them away so that the place wouldn't burn down. And every time one of the young people would come and drag the branches out, the police would shoot the tear gas canisters at them to try to injure them and to drive them away. But they made a mistake. They made serious mistakes, because there were members of our movement who were trying to get back into this building after we were trapped in. And the police would shoot pepper spray and tear gas at them to drive them out so they couldn't get back into the building. And what that meant was the people were not without leadership when they were outside of this building, when they had us trapped in this building with the intention to kill us. And the people rose up and fought the police. They would engage them in a serious battle, not only with bricks and bottles, but they engaged them in armed struggle to push them back. I'm alive today because people shot down, brought a helicopter down right out here with gunfire. I'm alive today because the police were chased out of this community while they were trying to kill me and other people who were here. They burned down houses in this community on that day. And I'm mentioning this because it's a statement about the significance of being able to talk, being able to communicate with each other, being able to talk with each other without having to go through Reverend Chicken Bone, being able to talk to each other without having attorney so-and-so being the one who is filtering our opinions, being able to talk to each other without having a Chris Cuomo who is twisting our words or trying to intimidate us to make sure that we don't say anything that offends the status quo or that would incite the masses of black people here. So they're careful about that. That's why Black Power 96 is really important. That's why we even come up with a provocative name like Black Power 96. This is not just, you've heard of power this and power that when they talk about these FM stations. This is Black Power 96. And we want it to be clear that that's what we stand for, Black Power. For power in possession of our people, and certainly in the possession of the most oppressed and harassed young African people. This is what it's about. Now, something is happening in this world, and all of you can see that. A lot of people are made extremely uneasy because of changes that you can see happening in the world. In the past, there was this assumption of white power, a white man dominates, controls the whole world. Everybody has experienced this at one time or another. Certainly most of us have experienced this, but something is happening, and people can see that white power is losing its grip on the planet. That it's very difficult for the white man to push and order people around like they used to be able to do. They can't order people around in Iran. They tell Iranians to do this. The people said, this is our country, this is our freedom, that we are determined to be free ourselves. They can't order people around in Venezuela. The people in Venezuela said, this is our oil that's in Venezuela that you've been ripping off for 100 years or more. We're going to use it for what we need to use it for. They can't bully the people in Afghanistan. People in Afghanistan want their own freedom. People in Iraq want their own freedom. What most people don't know when they read the newspapers or they look at what's online or they see things on television and this war in Iraq, war in Iran, not war in Iran, but threats against Iran, war in Afghanistan, what most people don't